guys, welcome back to the farm. Hey, we are in front of the farm. I want to give you the history of the farm, part 2, on site, to try to give you some perspective on some of these older pictures and when some of these buildings were laid out, starting with the actual farmhouse. When Grandpa moved in here, this was the house. The picture I'm showing you is from, I figure it's from the 20s. What's different about the house now is he added that sunroom porch on there. You see that's not on there? And he put essentially a bonus room on top of this house. He had 8 kids, and although it's a pretty big house, he needed it bigger. That was my sister's room growing up. I was raised in this house also. So there's a farmhouse. Of course, now it's sited and looks a lot different now, but a lot of history there. Old house, but a very solid house. I'm going to show you another angle of that here in a second. I'm on the other side of the house, and the picture here is of the house. You can see all the additions on it. That's how you know it's the same house. And then them other barns are right here, 1920. This is what the place looked like when Grandpa bought it and moved in the late 50s. If you'll notice, there was a block building that is still gonna show up in another picture I'm gonna show you here shortly as we move along in the progression. But that block building that's gone now was built early, 20s or earlier, and Dad kept it around for quite a while. Now this spot in this next picture is from 1973. This was Dad's 1966 Ford Fairlane GT. That was Mom's car. They got married in that car. He still owns that car. It's not here. Now in this picture, there's only 3 bays on this garage. These 2 in the shop got added later. But the significance of that car is it's still here. And the silos in the background, there's 1. The cement silo was up, and there was 2 right here next to that old original barn. And those 2 silos ended up getting taken down. This picture was 73 in the early 80s. We'll walk back there because they took them down to put the addition on the parlor. And we're behind the little garage where the 2 old silos stood. This was the first addition, if you see. And that was to add 2 more stalls. It's kind of blocking with these feed bins. The feed bins were added later to feed in the parlor. Here's the second addition that we put on in 05. But let me show you the first one. If you look, it says 6/27, 1985 etched in the concrete. And this was the original milking parlor right here for. In 85, they added this on. There's a picture of Mom and my Uncle Jason. He was the youngest of the 8 kids. He had Down syndrome. He's still going. He's still kicking. He watches the videos. He's living down south in Florida with my Uncle Jim and Tammy. They take care of him. But there they are in front of the same ladder. Nothing's changed. But there's a lot of history in this milking parlor. So that's what it was. 85 to 2005 we added on. And you can just really tell how they did it. It was just so tall that they were able to just do a lean-to style. And on the back side of both them additions, we were able to put a maternity pen, a calving pen on each side. So that worked out great. Next picture, we got to go way out back. Now let's pretend these buildings aren't here, because I'm going to get to these shortly. But this first machine shed by this dumpster, if you can see, that was Dad's first machine shed. I'll show you the picture where there's not a machine shed behind it. There is now. Picture that being gone. And in this site setup is 1987. Myself and my younger brother are in the picture. So that was Dad's first machine shed, just where it opens up there. He later added on to it, but that's not there yet. And if you look back in that picture of the field, there's a tree out there. That looked like that was a hay field. And I remember Mom used to take us out on picnics as we were little kids. So 1987, I was 5 years old. Might have been one of my earliest memories. So Dad's first machine shed in 1987. Now it's a partial hay barn machine shed. Okay guys, back up front, this picture I'm showing you has got Dad's baby blue Ford. This is the silver maple I was telling you about. Same tree. Dad's baby blue Ford pickups here. Birch tree. Got bigger. And this was that block building. It was right here. This was that building that was one of them original 1920 pictures that Dad kept. He kept that fairlane in it for years and years and years. I can tell you it was right here because you see this slab of concrete? Mom and Dad later on poured this. When the building was here, we used to play basketball right here. There was no circle driveway. This was all real low, and that was pasture. And then there was a corn crib right here. I'll tell you where the corn crib is because there's still the cement pad. It's a big circle. We ended up tying and concreting right into it. Here's the circle. This is exactly where that corn crib was in the picture. It's all still right here. And then we're out back in front of the farm for this next photo. Early 90s, third silos built. Still 3 bays, Mom's van. We used to have vans just like I've got 4 kids. I drive, my wife drives vans. That's a bigger milk house that's been put on. That wasn't there, but for the most part, this was the place. This was early 90s. Next picture. This picture's kind of dark, but this is the right angle. What you're seeing is the site for this baby calf barn. We're in the mid 90s, and we had a fuel barrel sitting here. There wasn't nothing else going on back there. There was just that machine shed built. There's a couple little hip roof barns this way, and we knew we needed a calf barn. Mom, we used to feed calves in this lean-to. This was put on years back, and it worked. But do you see how low it was in the ventilation? So they put this barn up, built the hutches ourselves, one big pen here and a transition pen in the corner with flipping windows all the way around it. And you can pretty much clean this mostly with the skid steer. But there's your building site. Once that was put up, we were starting to go because we used to breed the cows with beef, the first calf heifers with beef bull, and we started breeding them to all Holsteins. So we needed more room to house the up-and-coming heifers. Before this building site was put together, this corn crib I showed you, this circle, this footing, corn crib was eventually taken down. We stopped picking corn and grinding corn. Here, your next picture I'm showing you is the barn that's finished. There's your finished barn. We're sitting right here. Dad's truck's sitting here, and we're getting prepped for another one, their next heifer barn. So mid-90s, first calf barn. 01, the second heifer barn went up. Those are 60 by 80. Got the manure spreader here blocking us. 60 by 80. And then a short 4.5 years later, we needed another one, the final heifer barn, another 60 by 80. And these ones here, those are just 2 big pens. We kind of evolved as we went on, and then we'll feed hay up the gut. And we've got that ag bag out there. We'll feed corn in here too. These are about breeding age heifers. From here, we take them down to the other barn to get bred with the bull. But yeah, we just take batches of these out as they need them. About 12 every time we go, and we got a friendly one here. And this girl right here looks like she's about ready to get sent down there. But these barns work pretty well. They've got big doors in them. They ventilate real well. And if you look in these pictures, on this barn, you see the prep site. Dad's got a Komatsu bulldozer out there. That's when he got that. He started moving all his dirt around, but you can't tell how low this is. This corner of this picture is like right here, and it's a massive drop. We've had to continue to fill. See how straight and tall that barn is? That barn's not even thought of yet at the time. So we're about right here, and that corner post is where we hang a gate. We'd come out here, and there was a pasture. The pasture field's still there. We'd be feeding round bales in there. So this is what you're looking at in this picture. This is the post, and Dad's up there with the bulldozer trying to. We just brought in a bunch of fill. This was so low. I mean, we probably filled it in 5 feet. The next picture I'm going to show you of significance is this picture here. This is Dad in this exact location, and it's showing that the barns are built and that this block building behind him, and to know that 4030 he's on looks awesome, and he's looking very young in that picture, but the building was still there. Shortly after this picture, that barn was taken down. because then we knew we needed to expand this footprint, and we pushed everything out, and we made a big circle driveway in this farm for the milk hauler and for all the equipment. See, we were boxed in right here, and it just wasn't working for us. Anybody that's got a farm, I would recommend trying to find a way to put in a circle driveway, because when he did that, we pushed everything out and it just opened everything up. All the equipment can come through here. And see, he put that in after these barns were built and realized you had the room. Then later on, we ended up pouring an approach and so on and so forth. But there's Dad on that awesome tractor pulling a hay mower. Let's keep moving. The next picture I'm going to show you, I'm standing in the exact location of where this 4640 tractor is. This was the end of that big hip roof barn, and you can see by this barn those top ventilation tubes are out. But this was it. That was the existing freestall barn, and we just tore that, but we're going to tear it down. But this was where that tractor was sitting, and I remember you could get the barn empty of hay and you'd pull in there and for storage. But yeah, we fed them, dropped them hay down from that barn. But yeah, this was where it was. Same year, same month, actually dated on that picture, February 04. I'm in this exact spot in that brand new skid steer we got. That was our first new Deere skid steer. I'm in it. Mom took the picture. I'll never forget. I'm thinking, what is she doing? Now I'm glad she did, but this was where there was a gap in the barn right here. And then the hip roof barn was, there was like a partition there. So the hip roof barn, that was scraping the same barnyard. Now Bull hears me out here. He's not happy. And then in 2008, in this picture here, exact location, we're demoing that old hay barn. Here's that corner of that lean-to post. And there was a gate here we were using to round the cows up. That was a big ordeal. We took that baby down, and then we decided to put in a bigger freestall holding area addition. That was what that was for. We were getting tight on holding area room. This was basically all we had, was right here. In that old hay barn, I used to feed them hay and drop it down from top in the mangers. Well, we needed more freestalls. At this point, them barns were filling up, and we had heifers coming in like you wouldn't believe. So this ended up being a great idea on how they did it. And I don't even know how Dad came up with this. He never talked to any of us about it at the time. We were too young to be in here yet to even, it was above our pay grade, I'll just tell you that. But really a great concept for an alleyway, 2 long alleyways, holding area, and great, the highest it is, perfect ventilation. It ended up being a great maneuver for us, where it's kind of putting us perfect where we needed to be. And that's what you got to do sometimes, tear down old stuff to build newer. And then making our way out back, remember this was Dad's first machine shed in that picture. Earlier in 2000s, he added on to it. It's a lot longer than he enclosed this part. So this was, for the longest time, this was our only machine shed. Well, after the addition of the freestall barn, holding area, we put up the 4th and 5th silo. That was when we started producing high moisture grain. That's what we got in the last one. Then we needed 2 for haylage, 2 for corn silage, and 1 for grain. And that's where we're sitting. We ended up getting where we needed more storage, so that's why we're ag bagging on the ground. I've had a ton of questions about this pad right here. This was not another footing for a silo. This was actually the footing where that grain bin sat. It used to sit here. We had it moved up there. We were too congested in here. And when I pulled my feeder wagon in there, it was becoming a mess. That's out there. That's full of soybeans. We feed them in the parlor. Remember, we do that to supplement them pellets that they eat, because them pellets are not cheap. So in 2009 is when we added all these controls, and we added this barn. At one time there was just a roof over top. Well, we added a second bunk, so now there's 2 bunks, 2 belt feeders. Used to be an auger. Remember old augers? I was running an auger till like 08, 09. One of them old school screw augers. Took them out, got these belt feeders, put stalls on the side, unclosed it. Essentially it's a 3-sided barn. And that was a big improvement, because for a while they weren't shielded on this southwest side from the snow and the wind and the elements. We boxed them in. It's still an more open concept, but like I said, these are tough cows we've got, but it's really helped tie everything in for the feeding system. Up next brings me to 2011. Remember, we got a heifer. That heifer's in heat. That's why she's doing that. Remember, that was the original machine shed. In that picture, this was 2011. Now, she's muddy out here. Like I said, it didn't want to freeze this winter, but we're getting through it. This was a machine shed in 2011, a bigger, I think she's 60 by 120. That's got to house all them chopper wagons. So Dad stacked it on the backside. That's a big tall sucker. You get the combine in there if you want. For some reason, 2010 and on, we stopped taking pictures. Lost Mom in 2020, but I don't know what happened, but I've got no documentation of this big barn being built, but it's there. And for a few years, I know we were buying some land, and I didn't start YouTube in 2019. So if you guys been with me from the beginning, you've seen a whole lot of equipment getting brought home in the last 5 years. We'll just say that. So 2011, and then 2015, this big bad boy machine shed came into play, and I don't even know the size of it. It's just huge. This, again, the amount of fill that we put this on, and we put a big taper on this end for the concrete because it was just so much fill. But I'll show you the drop off down here. Now, we keep all our real good stuff in there because that's concreted. But yeah, we filled all the way out here, but look at that down there. That's 10 foot. That was about the grade of the whole place. We are up on a hill here, big time. But Dad knew if you were to do this right, you needed to fill it and make it as level as possible. And that cost a little bit of money, but it was well worth it. So there's 2015. And that same year, it's important to note, we concreted a massive apron, not just in front of this barn, but in front of all three of these heifer barns, which makes an incredible difference when there's snow and ice, or when you're coming in and out of these barns, cleaning them with a skid steer, leaving ruts. And we used to have to gravel this almost once a year, just because you were in here dumping in the manure spreader, turning, and it was just bumpy and hard on your back. Well, now this is a massive amount of concrete, and that happened that year too. In 2015, we ended up getting all this done. And other than that, besides a bunch of equipment being brought home, I showed you in lots of other videos, I'll show you the last thing that we did, and I did have this on YouTube, was the milk house edition. Now here's the milk house edition. The extra little lean-to there is as your milk coolers, and we made it big and bulky. And the reason for this was the milk haulers didn't want to come here every day to pick our milk up. They wanted to put us on every other day, which I don't blame them. And at this point, when you're talking milk hauling, you've got to pretty much do whatever they ask. So we added a second tank, and we made it as spacious in here as possible. But yeah, there's your milk house, original milk parlor, and it just ties right in. And we just kept it, all these additions we just kept extremely simple. But the milk house, it turned out quite nice. It kind of boxed us in even more, so that makes that circle driveway Dad put in early 2000s a must. You have to have one of them. Then you got to come in here and make this turn. Couple other things I didn't quite touch on because we were out back, and it was probably about the same time periods. I want to say the late 90s, well, early 2000s, when Dad took that block building down from the 20s or before. He had been using for years and years to store that 66 Ford Fairlane. I remember he'd pull it in there, cover it up, and he'd throw mothballs. Him and Mom would throw mothballs all around it and inside of it even. He put these two bays on, and he would store it in there. those got put on then in the early 2000s, and then a couple years later, they hit the reverse gable and they come over and they put the bigger shop on. Got a couple lifts in there, so that was done. And then this concrete, like I said, this concrete wasn't here. This was added in probably 2015, and eventually we'll probably pour more. But all this stuff takes time and stages, and you know, it's amazing what Dad's, you know, and Ma's been able to do when they took this over from Grandpa. Because a lot of this stuff, I said, it was, you know, when that car was sitting there from 73, Ma and Dad took this farm over in 1984, January of 1984. I found the original contract. We're gonna get out of here. I hope you like what I showed you. We're gonna get my office. I'm gonna show you that original contract from my grandma and grandpa. Told you I found all the paperwork and all the original deeds on all the property. But, and isn't it fitting that the boys and I took the farm over now from Dad, only because Mom passed 3.5 years ago. We took the farm over from 1984 in January, 40 years later to the month. So if that's not meant to be, I don't know what is. So we're gonna head home and I'll show you those original documents. So guys, I appreciate you sticking around the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed the history of the farm so far. Here's these contracts I was gonna show you. Land contract between John B. Siegler and Jean B. Siegler, husband and wife, to Mom and Dad, Jeffrey M. Siegler, Mary Ann Siegler. Pretty cool, January 1984. I'm not going to discuss the details or the what they had to pay in this contract. That doesn't really matter. I will say that Dad got a really good deal on the farm, just like he in turn gave us a good deal on it. That's the only way that this, like I said, that's the only way a farm you'll be able to transfer successfully is by giving that father-son hometown discount. But by looking at these contracts, I will say I see where Dad ended up getting his business sense from, because on this second contract, Grandpa, he had it where he had to buy the cattle out. The equipment had a separate price, and 25% of all net milk checks apply to this contract after subtracting $1,300 per month for farm of rental property. So he charged rent on all that at 6% interest. It's something that we didn't have to do. Dad didn't charge us any interest, but Grandpa was big on interest. So there it is. That's and then I've got the payment schedule, all handwritten, when Mom would write out and pay them, and Grandpa initialed it. And it's just cool. It's something that I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna keep these handy. This is, you know, part of someday when we go to pass the farm on from our kids. This will be, you know, we'll see when that ever comes to. This is 1984 to 2024, and now ownership changed again. I do want to say this was filmed. Most of this was filmed on my mom's birthday. She just, if she were here today, she'd be 67 years old. That was on the 10th of February, and when this is coming out on YouTube, I think it'll be on my dad's birthday. His is the 13th, so he's 70 years old. I wish my mom and dad a happy birthday. I appreciate it. Dedicated to Mom, this whole video. I had fun putting it together. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got one more history of the farm coming. If you're interested, leave a comment down below. It involves these abstract title booklets. If you guys don't know what these are, this gives you all the history on the land. I want to go over how much our land, when it was deeded. I've got all the information. I've got about 5 or 6 of these. When Grandpa bought it and who had bought it before him, all the years it goes up, and then eventually what did he pay for it. It's very, very interesting. So if you're interested in seeing a video on that, I'll get to work putting it together. But that would be like a part 3 of now the land. But I hope you enjoyed it. On that note, I'm gonna end this, and I'm gonna put all these pictures together, and I'm gonna sign off. So we'll get back to work. Still mild, But take care. See you in the next video. God bless.